Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular board meeting of the Truckee Downer Public Utility District. It is Wednesday, October 1st at, let's say, 6:02. And we are calling this meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Director Bender,
Here.
Director Randall,
Here.
Director Morell,
Here.
Vice President Liliotis,
Here.
President Finn.
Here. Excellent. We are all here. Welcome back, everybody. It's nice to see the whole board back together again. Pledge of Allegiance. Let's, as you are willing and able, please join us for the pledge. How about Director Bender, since you've been?
All right. Here we...
Step up to the plate.
All right, everyone, ready? Begin.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Brian, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes this evening.
Okay, thank you. Public comment, item number 5. So this is time that is set aside for the public to address the board on any matter that is not on the agenda tonight. So testimony related to agendized matter should be brought up at the time that that item is being considered. Do we have any public comment on anything this evening? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to item number 6, director updates. So this is time for the directors to talk about anything that's on their minds that's related to the district but not on the agenda. Do we have any director comments? No? No? No?
Nothing from this?
No? Okay, I just want to let the directors know that I did attend the Climate Transformation Alliance's strategic planning meeting, which was this past Monday. Brian attended, Stephen Poncelet attended. I'm extremely grateful for their continued guidance and support through this process, but we did sort of try to look out at the next 5 years on what that alliance is going to try to accomplish and how we're going to accomplish it. And it was a pretty fruitful meeting, and I think we were all in pretty good alignment with our next steps, and I will be taking the time to talk about that with you at a future meeting when it's on the agenda. So just to let you know that that did happen. So thank you. And now we have department updates. So this is our favorite part of the meeting.
I'm glad to hear you said favorite part, not worst part. So.
No, it's the best part.
Good evening, President Fenn and members of the board. My name is Chad Reed, and I have the opportunity to present the Water Department's updates. We're going to there it goes. Okay, we're going to start off with the graph that we're so familiar with. And the first thing I'd say is with a 1% difference from last year's same month to this year, it's not really that impressive. However, if we take it out to the running 3-year average, we see an 8% difference based on that. Why do I keep bringing this up, though? This is kind of the question. I've brought this a few times to you guys talking about conservation way of life, and you're going to hear shortly from Mr. Salmon that our sales are actually up, but yet this is the pumping side, or this is the well side, is down. And so it's something that we're actually pleased with these results. This is a good thing versus the other way around. And so we keep bringing this up to talk about, starting in January, this is going to be a real scenario that we're going to have to go through every single month as we continue to go on to show that approximately 1% loss that we're doing each year as we move forward. So I'm going to jump into a little bit about some of what's happening in the water department. We're going to start off with some capital improvement projects and talk about some training that we did. So our very first thing is the Sierra Meadows pipeline project. We are putting water in, we believe, on Monday in the last segment of pipe. So we're starting to round third base, so to say, on our way home. But we're very appreciative of the customers and their patience that they have had, and the inconvenience that we have been this summer is going to be well worth it when they have the system replaced in the way we're doing. So we believe we're going to still be able to finish prior to October 16th. 6170A tank is done, and we're in the process of, whenever you refill a tank, there's VOCs, volatile organic compounds, and a few other tests that we need to do. So we're in the testing phase of this, getting ready to bring that back online. But the contractor is done, and we're able to start putting water back in the tank. So it was a big success, and we're happy with how that turned out and with the contractors. Hirschdale well was pulled recently. We had lost some production there. The numbers had got a little bit lower, or how much water it was producing was a little bit less. When they pull that, so they actually pull the column they pull the column and the well itself because it's a submersible well. But when they pull it, they normally send a video down the entire length of the well itself. And when they did this, they found that the screens were extremely plugged to the point that you couldn't even see the louvers at all. So we'll be bringing an additional item to you next month. This is nothing for tonight, just more prepping you for what's going to be coming the second meeting of this month that we'll be bringing this forth because it's going to exceed the dollar amount. Our last thing is as water operators, there are many times that we have to go inside of tanks, we have to go inside of vaults, we have to go inside different areas that are classified by OSHA as confined spaces. So everybody in the entire water department is certified not only as just the entrant, but also as the supervisor and as the attendee that's looking over. So we train to all three positions. And then we would like to extend a thank you to TSD for allowing us to use our facility. They have a very nice training facility that we're able to have a mock scenario going on that we practice recovering people out of a well or out of the vault and making sure that we're all very familiar with our safety equipment. And I just wanted to say thank you to TSD for their hosting us for a second year in a row.
Actually, I have one question before you leave the podium, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How deep are the wells? So
So
for
they
example,
do-
Hirschdale, how far down do you have to go down?
Hirschdale itself is 637 feet. It's not super deep. We have some that are over 1,000 feet deep, but they do vary a little bit depending on where they've been placed in the aquifer. So if they hit ground or any sort of bedrock, they're obviously going to stop.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board. Mike Selman, CFO. Pleased to present another month of really good customer service scores, both on how satisfied they were and how long it took to answer the question. Just a reminder, in customer service, we also do the billing for over 14,000 customers, electric and water, and this is where we're at year to date at about 0.4% customer growth, so it's a bit tampered down compared to previous years, our current customer growth rates, and I'm hearing that from some other districts as far as permits and things like that as well. On the electricity side, we're averaging year to date 960 kilowatt hours per month, which is down 2.1 to last year and 3.9, almost 4% to the 3-year average. Our cost per kilowatt hour of almost 24 cents per kilowatt hour is up 8.5% to last year. Water utility is almost 7,500 gallons average per account per month, which is up 4% to last year and up 10% to the 3-year average, as Chad was referencing. Costs of about almost a little over a cent and a half per gallon is up 5.5% per year to prior year. On the facilities general services side, customer payment kiosk is ready for install. We just got to get the machine here now. So that's being prepared and configured and hope to have that in the next 30 to 45 days. We've done quite a bit of asphalt maintenance. As you know, this is a time of year for that type of activity. And we did preventative maintenance on our overhead doors, which are important throughout this facility, as well as the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and AC. Did a lot of preventative maintenance work there. On the fleet side, did various repairs, typical stuff for the most part. Weekly bit inspections. I had to look back at what that is. It's a California regulatory matter called Basic Inspection of Terminals. And that's on our big stuff, our big digger derricks, those type pieces of equipment, and trailers to ensure safety on public roads. And then we did Smog and bar regulatory filings. Smogging is kind of new for us as well as other districts. I don't know whether it was CARB or the DMV or somebody decided that the district's certain regular size fleet within our fleet needed to be smogged. So it's relatively new for us actually in that realm. And then we're expecting 8 vehicle deliveries in the next 30 days. A couple of those have come in, a multi-hog, a squirt boom, and then 6 service bodies, 2,500, 3,500 size type vehicles that we ordered a long time ago. And then the VATCon water truck repair, we are still wrestling with the vendor that did a total head replacement about 13 months ago, and the warranty was 12 months. So we're in negotiations there. Look forward to that. We also have great news. The sensors are working. These are a common, every business has their nemesis, and the gates and the sensors is one here. And with this new technology, with those orange type pieces of strips are hopefully going to work better, and obviously that's been asphalted over. So excited about that. Cost service analysis and rate studies, moving on to accounting and finance. As you know, there's active both electric and water. We've had several workshops, public workshops here as part of regular board meetings. And then we have next up public hearings and ordinances and potential adoption on the 5th of November for electric and the 19th of November for water. We also have the biennial budget for 26 and 27. That's active. We've had 2 public workshops at regular board meetings. We have a 3rd workshop scheduled for October 15th. And then we have a public hearing scheduled and potential approval on November 5th. Did want to point out some good news here on CalPERS. They issue an annual valuation report. It's very important for us in understanding our pension liability, and it also determines our unfunded accrued liability, which is a cash payment. It jumped from 1.7 million to almost 1.9 million for the upcoming year. These are all budgeted items, but a large number nonetheless. And then the actual rates, both for the employee and the employer, are relatively unchanged, which is great news. And then at the bottom here is our the funding status, and the liability for pension went up to about $75 million, which was 5.3%. However, the market value of assets, so our funded assets, went up greater than that, almost 8%. And so the net accrued liability went down by 2.5%, which is great news. So 180 basis points. So our percent funded went from 72.2 to 74. So that's great. We're probably not alone in this as far as the market, the assets at CalPERS, the investment returns for this measure year were greater than anticipated by the actuaries. So everybody improved a little bit, I think. That's what I hear. Some other good news on the UAMP side, the annual operating margin credit was over $500,000 this year. That's up from $201,000 last year. And it equates to about $3.38 per megawatt hour. So great news there, and that'll be factored into our upcoming power cost adjustments likely. There's a lot going on in this left side chart. The first 4 dots on the left are August for the last 4 years, 22, 23, and 24. And you can see while it's not the lowest for August in the last 4 years, it is lower than last year in August, so that's great news. This is UAMP's purchase power per megawatt hour cost, okay? And then the center section, or the section to the right on the left graph, is the last 12 months of purchase power and what that cost looks like. And then on the right is cost per megawatt hour the last 4 years, year to date. And that's a great trend. That's much better than trending the other direction up. This is trending down. Some other news, we got, as I briefed the board back in March, we were contacted by S&P Global, and they adjusted the outlook for us, the Truckee Donner Public Utility District's electric utility, as well as numerous other California electric utilities, that their outlook, not their rating, but their outlook was going to be changed from stable to negative. And as part of being negative, it means you're going to be reviewed in the next 6 to 9 months. That's coming this month. So we got the notice a while back, or a few weeks ago, or a week ago, and they also provided their pre-questions. And it reminds me of a root canal combined with some other medical procedures that aren't so comfortable. So it's quite a deep dive. It includes power supply arrangements and a briefing on all of our power supply arrangements. Wildfire mitigation efforts is the most substantive part of the 3 or 4 page data request. Includes, they've read our WMP and had a lot of questions on that. Their tiers, our fire risk, what we're doing about system hardening, system detection, and response to things that are detected, plus a bunch of other stuff related to wildfire. We also had a lot of questions about rates and our financial reserves, as well as cybersecurity. Tips of the waves of a very deep dive. Oh, I did want to point out that our current rating is A+. AAA would be the highest. Then there's AA. Then there's A. We're an A+. And so I don't know what this review's outcome's going to be and whether it's predetermined. I have a suspicion it's predetermined for all the electric utilities. But anyway, we'll see where that lands. The next level down, these are all investment grade. Even at A, you would be investment grade. So if we go from A+ to A, we'd still be investment grade, but it would be a lesser rating. BB is after A, below A, and BB is actually still considered investment grade, but you don't want to be a B. And then it goes down from there to Bs and single Bs and Cs, and there's actually a D as well. Okay, some economic indicators. Inflation is currently at 2.9, and we're not done with the year yet. 2.9% year over year. And on the right is unemployment rates, 4.3 for the US, 5.5 for California. And then I included 20 years on this because on the left, right before 2008 timeframe, those things started wrapping up, and then we had a recession. So I think that's informative. On economic indicators for fuel prices, this is not Truckee. Truckee would be off of this chart. So it's on the chart. How's that? It's just above it. So this is for US in blue, Nevada in green, and red is California. We haven't seen a massive uptick from the predictions a few months ago, but it could still be coming. Things lag, as you know, sometimes economically. We are hearing news that the government of California is negotiating with the refinery operators, perhaps giving them lump sum amounts to say, hey, if we give you $100 million, will you not close the refinery? We'll help you with maintenance, something like that. So we'll see where that plays out. With that, I'll just turn it over to Stephen Ponsley. Thank you.
Don't go yet, because I always have questions. Is that okay?
Yes.
First of all, I like hearing good financial news, so that's great. Love hearing that. I know you were saying about this, the rating and the credit rating, and you feel that it's predetermined. So my question is, if you didn't feel it was predetermined, how do you feel that we are doing, and would we fare well with, would we have a positive rating?
Well,
if it wasn't predetermined, you're kind of feeling like maybe we're lumped in the rest of the utilities with
it,
all the things that you mentioned.
So the number one impetus for the downgrade, if you will, in the outlook from stable to negative were the fires in LA. And that's when this popped, right? And so they evaluated their entire portfolio of electric utilities with respect to fire risk in California. And so that is by far the number one thing they're looking at. I look back at the 2013 rating for electric, and they barely mention wildfire, right? And then in the 22 rating, they talk about it, and now they're deep diving much more substantially. I mean, to have questions about, you know, line sensors and, you know, just every aspect of, you know, fire risk and what you're doing in your system, they're very attuned to what the industry is doing and are looking at it very closely. And PSOM was multiple questions in the Q&A, those kind of things. So I don't know. My concern is that it's 2 grades down instead of 1. You know, I don't know. But, you know, typically these types of companies don't do a warning, hey, we're looking at, we changed your outlook for the left side. The rating is potentially negative now. So, yeah, can't say for sure. But I do know they ask, you know, all those questions. You know, what are you doing with rates? Are you building reserves? Are you doing wildfire mitigation efforts? Ad nauseum.
And I would say that I feel like we are checking those boxes.
We are
Check,
trying our
check,
best
check.
every
And
day.
so fulfilling
Yeah,
those.
it's in alignment with our strategic plan. You bet.
Okay,
So,
great.
yeah.
Thanks.
And budget.
Sir. Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Stephen Poncelé with Public Information and Strategic Affairs. Been doing a lot of communicating and a lot of communicating about water. It does seem to be the topic du jour. We had done the rate sheet, the infographics, and the kind of basic education on our water systems and our water resources. A couple weeks ago, we put out the rates 1 sheet. See up there on the left, working towards rates and what goes into your rates. We have done a lot of work on our website. And if you see that circle on the top of the middle button there, there's now a button that goes directly to rates. And we also have a friendly URL for that, www.tdpud.org/rates. And then we also have our water page, which is, you know, a compilation of the infographics of the rate 1 sheet of, you know, everything we're doing, the Prop 218 mailer. And that's tdpud.org/your-water. So again, ultimately, everything we do pushes our customers to the website where they can find accurate information and they can dive deeply into why things are if they choose to do so. On the right, there has been community feedback and some churn out there, and so we're putting together information to try to kind of steer people to the facts and to where they can get accurate information. Along that path, we continue to, you know, work with our partners and within the community to get our messages and our campaigns out. Todd Donner News did a great piece on our wildfire programs, our emergency management, and then on, you know, their money at work up in Tahoe Donner. And so seeing a lot of that. Alex and I, the communications program manager, were on KTKE in the last month twice doing interviews. First one was on wildfire. Second one was on water and rates and the Prop 218 process. And then the California Special Districts Association magazine reached out to us, and they had seen our press release a little while back on Charging Futures Forward, our campaign about growing our own, our interactions with the schools all the way up to our scholarships. And so they're working on a piece with our support and our involvement that'll be coming out soon. We are out in the community, and the Truckee Community Block Party really is the main thing in the last month. Kind of built off some of our past outreach efforts and was a great gathering of public agencies and organizations in our community that serve the public. And so everyone with a booth there, and there was about 40 participants. You know, we're offering services and information and, you know, a benefit to the community. And so we had great traffic at the booth. and we answered specific questions about water rates. We had that water rate one sheet available to anyone who had questions, so we could, again, steer them to the information. Upcoming events are Big Truck Day on October 18th. Very fun and well-attended community event. The kids love our trucks, so we do very well there, and our team really shows up and puts on a good show for the community. And then we are, as we move into water conservation of a way of life and outdoor water irrigation restrictions, we are working on our conservation garden as the tool that our local landscapers, nurseries, and customers can use to kind of maintain beautiful landscaping but reduce water use. And so we're going to start in late October with an event geared at the nurseries and landscapers, and really lay out our plans for helping our community comply with this regulation and get feedback from them. What do you think about our garden? What do you think about how we promote it? What do you think about our new rebates we're talking about? So we're looking forward to that event. And then, we continue to just beat the regular drum of communications on our 2025 communication plan. Your Money at Work's one we hit all year long. Those pictures on the left are of the Covered Conductor project on the west end of Donner Lake in that neighborhood. So really happy to see that. Conservation Garden, you'll see more of this in the future, but we're updating our kind of brochure and our webpage for that, and then we will be upgrading the signage in the garden itself. Walked by it on the way in tonight. It's really looking pretty good. So very thank you to the people who maintain it and take care of it. And then it doesn't feel like wildfire season, and we may get some good rain here in the next few days, which will help, but typically it goes through October. So big winds can come in, which is the issue, and so we continue to follow and track that. A little bit on strategic affairs. The California Resources Board Advanced Clean Fleets Rule, they had the 15-day language hearing, and the CARB board took action to adopt that. The biggest action was they acknowledged that they had lost the EPA waiver, and 85% of the fleets were no longer required to comply, and they made that official. So not great for the regulation and for us. They did initial implementation of AB 1594. That's the legislation that our joint action groups pushed through for the utility sector. Some improvements, but really big challenges remain. They did pre-flight some 15-day changes that the board has asked staff to do. And the biggest one is delaying the 100% purchase requirement till 2030. And so right now, high population counties have a 50% purchase requirement, and then January 1, 27, it was supposed to go to 100. We're a low population county. That's one of the things we lobbied for and were successful with. Our mandate was going to be 100% starting January 1, 2027. It looks like it's going to be 100% starting January 1, 2030. That's a significant delay and helpful. The rest of the regulation and, according to the very broad coalition on it, the general thing is that's great, but it's still not workable for us. So more to come, but there's been a lot of activity there. And then in terms of just general strategic affairs, the California legislative session did end on September 13th. In the last week, the governor, the Senate Pro Tem, and the head of the Assembly kind of locked themselves into a room, and they cut a climate deal, is how they're promoting it. Our lobby is generally in favor of a lot of what came out there. They did pass the Pathways Initiative, which is a big step towards regionalization. They reauthorized AB 32, what was Cap and Trade, now rebranded as Cap and Invest, and that is a revenue resource source for the district. They reauthorized low carbon fuel standard. That's the transportation side of that carbon market. Again, a source of revenue for us. And so not bad. There's hundreds of bills on the governor's desk. And so we're waiting to see the veto process and what goes through. Bills with large fiscal impact are facing veto with our budget deficits. And so more to come on that as well. And with that, thank you.
I have one question. Me always with questions. The clean fleet delay, is that, is regionalization playing into that? And I know that's a good thing for us because to be lumped in with some of these other areas.
Those are separate issues.
Okay.
The Advanced Clean Fleets role is an environmental regulation for air, attempting to push electrification of vehicles in support of California's climate policy. Regionalization's about the grid and the Western grid, and right now it's separate markets, and everyone agrees it needs to be a bigger market, and they're just trying to figure out how to do that.
Okay, the reason why I was asking, I just remember at the conference we went to, and there were some issues with the clean fleet and having it be with our needs up here and being in snow and stuff. It's hard to find those vehicles and then to comply. So they're separate issues.
Correct.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Jillian Stewart, HR and Risk Director. Presenting our core values recognition winners. First up, we have Stephen Keats for integrity. Stephen Keats is being recognized for his integrity for going above and beyond by helping with on-call outage and peace-on communications during our communication program manager's leave of absence. This was key during nights and weekends for unplanned after-hours outages, and it helped spread the workload, allowing others to practice work-life balance, and it supported the district's communication core value. So thank you, Stephen. Next up is Xander Tomasian. Xander is part of our IT team, and he's consistently demonstrates reliability and availability. He is always ready to step in and help when needed. He's been an integral part of the Monday.com project, providing support that has kept everything moving forward without delay. As one of our team members put it, there's no sitting around waiting for Xander. He's always ready to help. His dedication and responsiveness makes a difference not only to the success of our projects, but also to the people working alongside him. Having Xander on the team is like having our own secret superpower. Thank you, Xander. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Xander and Stephen. Even more.
Good evening, President Finn, members of the board, Scott Crow, IT Director. We see in the news, we see on the internet all of the different threats and breaches that happen. There's a plethora of this stuff out there. We're starting to see a lot more attacks towards the public sector and the utility sector, and here's some reasons why that I'm listing here. Generally, in the public sector, you tend to see more outdated technology. Systems, hardware, generally a lot of the hardware that we handle in the infrastructure, operational technology was not originally designed with security in mind, right? So from an IT perspective, there's a lot of different things we have to do to kind of maintain those devices and make sure that they're secure. They weren't, again, originally designed to be connected, and that's one of the issues that we have to deal with all the time. Another issue is around the volume, just the sheer volume of data that public agencies collect. You think about the ratepayers, you think about the public, you think about all that information, as well as the information that we collect from our critical infrastructure, things like the sensors and different meters and different things like that. It's ripe for criminals to try to attack. Limited resources. In the public sector, you clearly tend to see tighter budgets. In my experience, IT tends to be the first thing that gets cut when we start seeing tight budgets and whatnot. So there's an issue around that. Understanding that nowadays technology, information technology is absolutely necessary in your business. Understaffed, public sector tends to be a lot more understaffed than, say, the private sector. And then lack of expertise, and that this is around better benefits, better pay. You generally see expertise migrating towards those better benefits and better pay. So, and then lastly, increased sophistication of attacks. Artificial intelligence has really enabled newer types of threats in the cybersecurity world, and it's emboldened threat actors. Again, we hear about breaches all the time. I wanted to call out these two here. They're very recent, and they're kind of more pertinent to us in the public sector. Both of these were random ransomware cyber attacks that occurred. One in the state of Nevada, the other in the city of St. Paul. Pretty much took the entire services offline. I last checked on September 24th, and both of these are still, although they've recovered most of their services, they're still working to bring the rest of their stuff online. You don't tend to hear a lot about what happens at the end, like really what happened in these attacks, for a lot of reasons. One is security. The agencies don't want to give out that information to give people attack vectors, so that's one reason. But it is known that these were ransomware attacks, and from what I've been able to determine, both of these incidents did not pay that ransomware. So they're working on restoring their systems based on their backup strategies, and possibly having to rebuild systems that they didn't have backups for. I don't know that, but definitely it was known that they didn't pay the ransomware. So I wanted to call out this report from 2025 from Simperis, which is a cybersecurity organization, and they did a survey of 350 water treatment plants and electricity operators in the US and the UK. A couple things they found were 62% of the organizations they surveyed had said that they had been targeted by threat actors in the past 12 months, and 80% of those were attacked multiple times. 57% of these attacks disrupted normal operations, with 54% of the victims suffering permanent corruption or destruction of data or systems. Mimecast, IBM, Verizon, these are all three very big organizations that have a really robust cybersecurity organization, and they do reports annually to kind of look at the cybersecurity atmosphere that's out there. And their most recent reports came up and said that 74 to 95% of cybersecurity breaches are caused by human error. These human errors, you can break them into one group is the errors that are caused, that are system errors caused. Well, those are essentially the human side of the IT, right? So the administrators that are maintaining the systems, doing things like having weak password policies, ignoring software updates. We have updates that come out all the time, whether it's software, hardware, devices, not having those on a regular schedule to get those updates. That's clearly a problem. Misconfigured systems, not building systems based on baseline, best practices, things like that. These are errors that would be on the IT side. The other group of errors are the user-based errors, right? The people that are using the technology. Things like phishing attacks, carelessness and negligence, social engineering, misuse of credentials, passing your password around. Here at the district, we've definitely seen over the last year a large uptick on phishing attacks and social engineering. An example of that that we've seen is stuff like criminals creating a fake email chain that looks like they're having conversations with someone higher up in the organization, and then they'll take that fake chain and target someone internally and send that to them and say, hey, by the way, I've talked to so-and-so, and they're asking if you'll make this payment or do this thing. They're very convincing, they're very targeted, and it's easy to fall for those. So lastly, just want to point out some of the things that the district staff is working on currently. We're currently still working on building out an adaptive security architecture. An example scenario of something that's would be fit into that category would be the system notices an increase of failed login attempts. Well, a static approach would be the system sees these attempts and then locks the account, requiring, say, the user to go to IT and try to unlock it. That would be a static approach. An adaptive approach would be the system uses behavioral or analytics and machine learning and analyzes the situation in real time. So analysis and detection. System identifies patterns that the signal of the potential attack, such as logins from concentrated or unusual geographic location. So they notice that person doesn't normally log in here. Things like logins occurring outside of normal business hours. And based on that analysis and detection, you'd get an automated response, right? So the system might require a stricter authentication at that point, maybe require you to do some multi-factor authentication, or it might just block access to the IP address of the device that's trying to log in instead of locking your account. So there's more adaptive ways of dealing with that kind of stuff. Benefits are that it's stopping attacks before they cause damage, minimizes disruptions for actual legitimate users, and then the system actually can learn from those threats, and it becomes smarter over time. Currently working on additional security policies and procedures, security operations center. And then lastly, I think this one's pretty important, the security awareness training. If you look at the stat from the previous thing where it's 74 to 95% of these breaches are caused by human error, if we can do some effective security awareness training, then we can see that this is a graph from an organization that works with other organizations on effective security awareness training. And this graph shows, they present this every year based on the organizations they work with. It shows when they first start out, this on the y-axis, it shows a very high likelihood that the organization might be phished. So they do a training program for 3 months, and as you can see, that likeliness of being phished goes down to where in that year of training, at the end of the year, that likeliness goes down quite a bit. So I find this to be pretty effective at kind of helping mitigate some of those breaches that you see out in the open. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Our updates, okay. Still updating in my head. Thank you all. Thank you for those updates. As I said at the beginning, it's always super helpful and informative, at least to me personally. Public hearing, item number 8 this evening. So this is a public hearing on the district's workforce vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. We'll be conducting a public hearing, which I'm opening right now. Now opening the public hearing. It is open on our workforce vacancies, recruitment, and retention, and we will provide feedback. Thank you.
Good evening again, Jillian Stewart, HR and Risk Director. As President Finn mentioned, item number 8 for public hearing on the district's workforce vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts. So a little background on this item. Assembly Bill 2561 was passed in September 2024 to address the significant problem job vacancies pose to California public agencies and their ability to deliver public service. Public agencies are now required to report annually to their governing board vacancy rates and positions, recruitment and retention efforts, and recruitment and retention challenges. There are additional reporting requirements if the vacancy rate is 20% or above for a single bargaining unit. At the September 17th board meeting, a public hearing to present the district's workforce vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts was scheduled for tonight. As part of AB 2561, recognized employee organizations are entitled to make presentations at the board meeting where the requirements are being presented. The district maintains one MOU with one labor bargaining unit, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers 1245. IBW 1245 was provided the opportunity to present tonight and declined. Currently, we have 53 budgeted represented positions with 7 vacancies. This results in a 13% vacancy rate. This is below that 20% threshold of requiring additional reporting requirements. However, tonight I am going to review our current vacancies. So in electric, we have 3 journeyman linemen and 1 electric foreman position open. This makes up a line crew. Historically, the district has had 2 line crews, but in the 24-25 budget, a 3rd line crew was created. However, we did not fill this due to vehicle and equipment procurement challenges. The 3rd line crew is not being budgeted in the upcoming budget, and these 4 open positions are being reevaluated for their most effective use within the electric department. We also have a substation inspector lineman and a vehicle maintenance foreman position open. Both of these job descriptions are under review, and once that process is finished, we will move on to the hiring process. We've had a few promotional opportunities within the water department due to a retirement earlier this year, so the vacancies that we're seeing there is a ripple effect of that retirement. The most current one being the water leadman position. We have 3 internal candidates, and we're currently in progress with that hiring process. In anticipation of that promotion, we opened the water service tech or tech and training position last week, and we have 2 internal candidates and hoping to schedule those interviews for the next upcoming weeks. Next, I'm going to highlight our recruitment and retention efforts. The district is confident in our ability to hire our open positions due to our competitive wages, benefit package, and our overall work environment and culture. We're well positioned because we underwent a compensation and organizational structure study last year, and we utilized this study to help us negotiate a new 3-year contract with IBW 1245 that was approved in March of this year. That new contract included market wage adjustments, cost of living adjustments, meal and expense benefit increases, and other work condition improvements. We regularly strive to have a strong work environment and culture through our staff development, which includes individual development plans, field tours. We have our annual internal conference that we call District Day, and many other internal and external training opportunities. We regularly solicit feedback from our staff through our culture, community, and safety committees. And we have many fun team building events and activities that we highlight during the department updates, one scheduled for next week or a whole week's worth with PUD Appreciation Week. Charging Futures Forward is the district's Grow Your Own Local Workforce campaign. Under Charging Futures Forward, we have built strong relationships with the school district, and so we have engagement with students at every level, including just last night, we were in attendance at the Truckee High Career Fair. We have seasonal jobs, internships, and apprenticeships that have resulted in full-time and permanent positions over the last couple of years. And new this year, we awarded our first TDPUD workforce scholarships for both college-bound students and those interested in utility operations needing scholarships for technical training or certifications. And while we're confident in our ability to hire these open positions, it's important that we remain forward-thinking and keeping our eye on any potential recruitment and retention challenges. And those challenges include high cost of living and limited housing inventory, availability of qualified, skilled, or technical employees within the utility sector, such as journeyman linemen or engineers, and maintaining a competitive wage in the same job market as investor-owned utilities while managing increasing operational costs. These challenges are not unique to the district, they're industry-wide, and what compounds these challenges is that we're all competing in the same talent pool for a large amount of vacancies for these skills positions, especially throughout California. These challenges are often a topic of conversation with our other industry partners, such as other NCPA or IBEW members. Kind of the bright side of these conversations is that the district gets to learn from what others are doing and potentially apply those strategies for future use. And some of the ones that we're keeping an eye on are the remote and hybrid positions, satellite offices, and then we always maintain awareness of new contracts with IBEW membership. There is no direct fiscal impact with this item. And staff's recommendation tonight is for the board to A, conduct a public hearing regarding the district's workforce vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts in compliance with AB 2561, and B, provide feedback to staff.
Great, thank you very much. Our vacancies and our retention efforts. This being a public hearing, do we have any public comments on this item? Oh, I did before. Yeah, I did open it. You got me, okay, good. So it is open. Anybody who wishes to participate is welcome to do so now. Wow, great. Thank you again, Jillian. Comments, questions from the board?
I do have one question on the college and career fair last night with Truckee High. What was the interest inquiries from those who attended with the PUD? I'm curious. Is it growing? Or is this the first time PUD's participated with the Grow Your Own program?
This is our third year of participating with the Truckee High Career Fair. Our agenda at each one of those has changed. This year, we focused on promoting the scholarship and our Tech Teens program. In years past, it was just kind of getting the information about what careers were available, but this year we really focused on the scholarship and the Tech Teens so they can get in and participate in that program. Attendance was mild last night, I would say, in comparison to years before, but we handed out some flyers, and even if there's just an interest and they take it and go, that's important for us to get that information out into the community.
So it seems sort of that it was new for some students coming in, they were less aware or
Of our scholarship or of
or
the?
just sort of with the PUD and opportunity there, I think is what I'm asking.
I think the students are less aware. Their parents are always very excited to see us there and encourage students to stop by our booth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Morrell. Thank you, Jillian. Do we have any more director comments or questions?
Just really good information. So just wanted to say thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Bender.
Yeah, no, same as Jeff. I mean, obviously, this is somewhat checking a box, but at the end of the day, it is useful information for the board to have and the public to comprehend. And so thank you for putting that together.
I agree with that statement. I think the public is in fact interested in these conversations. So, thank you. I can see that Steve Gross might have something to say.
I was just going to suggest that you close the public hearing
Let's do
as we
that
leave
right
this
now.
item.
Okay, we are now closing the public hearing. All right. That brings us to the consent calendar this evening. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar tonight? Seeing none. Do we have directors, questions, comments, items they want pulled?
Yes, I'd like to pull number 9 and number 10.
Okay, and this is for discussion after we approve consent without 9 and 10. Very good. Fine with me. Do we have a motion to pass consent minus numbers 9 and 10?
So moved.
Do we have
I'll
a second?
second that.
Okay, can we, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, that will bring us to item number 9, which is consideration of the procurement for electric distribution line sensors. And just before we open that whole conversation, while we're still on consent, just a quick public, for anybody who's playing along at home, what consent calendar is usually composed of are things that the board is familiar with, and they tend to be routine in nature, and we have had conversations about them. And we also, which the public is also encouraged to seek out on our website. The whole packet is on our website, so you guys can read everything that we're reading. And of course, if we have more questions, we can always reach out to staff. So I just don't want people to think that, wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff on there and they just don't read it. We do read it. We are familiar with it. We talk about it with each other, and not with each other in outside of this dais, and with staff. So yeah, just to be clear. Thank you very much. And on to item number 9. Please, Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, President Finn, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to provide some clarity on this item that was presented last board meeting. So just a little background. On August 12th, the district issued a request for bids. Gridware was the sole bidder for this bid that went out. Staff recommendation for fiscal year 2025 is not to exceed material purchase authorization of $770,000. That's 400 units. That basically represents 15% of our grid. Option to extend 4 years was included in the annual procurement authorizations, will be included in the annual procurement authorizations, and then staff received feedback from the board for follow-up information from the board meeting on September 17th. So a little bit of background, again, on Gridware itself. Gridware's grid scope device is paired with a dispatch service. It supports grid modernization by providing utilities with actionable information that enhances reliability,
reduces wildfire risk, addresses aging infrastructure, and strengthens long-term system resilience that is in line with industry standards. And the picture on the right there is the actual device. It is about the same size as an iPad. They are pole-mounted, minimal labor to install, 4 quarter-inch lag screws. Push a button on the back, it's activated within 48 hours. They're self-powered. It's a solar panel on the front that you see there. It has a battery that lasts up to 30 days. This device works even when our grid is off. Has 14 sensors, mechanical sensors, environmental sensors, optical sensors, and electromagnetic sensors. These sensors are not new technology. It's technology it's existing technology that's been packaged by Gridware into a sealed device. The devices provide real-time data on power line conditions, which means faster outage response. So you may recall the last month, and again, I talked about this on September 7th, on the previous board meeting. We had an animal-related outage that took us approximately 3.5 hours to find the problem. With this device, it would have taken us directly to the pole where the animal made contact. We'd have been able to clear it. My estimate is approximately 1 hour to restore service versus roughly 3.5. It provides early detection of anomalies. It's enabling proactive maintenance, and it's integrated with weather stations. Again, here's some of the items that it'll detect. It'll detect conductors slopping together, animal contacts, tree branch falling into our lines, severe weather conditions, compromised pole, such as a car pole accident, asset overload. I mentioned this last time. A transformer is overloaded. It will detect that it's overloaded. It'll give us an opportunity to go out and fix that, replace that transformer before it fails, and then conductor down or line break. So once the device detects a problem, it goes through some artificial intelligence and it goes through some human interaction to determine if it's a true problem on the line. If it is determined that it's a problem on our line or with our facilities, we receive a call, a text message, an email, and we also have access to a dashboard. There is a camera on the device. It's only pole top looking down span, and it's only for secondary fault verification. It is a very low resolution camera. The way Gridware describes their camera is like the first generation iPhone camera. It does not capture any video. It's only a point in time when the photos are taken, and that's by the human at Gridware pushing a button to tell it to snap a photo. And they only take photos during an event. It's only transmitted when that event happens. So this is a list of the companies that are currently utilizing the device. There are public utilities such as SMUD and others on that list. There's investor-owned utilities on the list as well. You may recall there were 3 utilities on the list as planned deployments. There's now 6. And they have over 135 million field hours of monitoring. This device has been in production for 3 years, over 3 years. So with this, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Wright to provide some context and some history.
Before Mike continues on some of the more details of this particular project, I wanted to give a little bit more of a broader context of where this project fits into our strategic plan. And Mike wasn't here at the time in 2023 when we embarked on some of the strategic plan updates and board initiative updates. So if you recall, the board participated in, and the district facilitated 7 community work circles or community circles for feedback and really evaluate and get comments and participation in evaluating the previous strategic initiatives that included undergrounding of overhead utilities. As you may recall, we reframed that to be a broader initiative for system reliability and safety. And so it wasn't so focused on the undergrounding initiative alone, that it had a broader reach for both water and power to find ways to advance our systems from a perspective of reliability and safety, public safety, staff safety, and environmental safety. And so one of the key initiatives there at the community circle was having discussions and feedback on community input on their appetite and desire for undergrounding, which we hear about. At that time, there was a very strong campaign with PG&E on tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in capital investment with extensive undergrounding projects across their system in response to their wildfire liabilities and a lot of scrutiny and criticism from the PUC and their service base. And so we evaluated that, did some studies on what the cost would be for undergrounding as an initiative here locally. And we used a couple of local references. NV Energy had taken on an undergrounding project in I guess that would be the northeast sector, the northeast shore of Lake Tahoe, their service territory just south of Incline. And the cost came back at somewhere between $3.5 and $4.5 million a mile. And if you recall, that required a heavy contribution from the residents in that community who funded, I think, around 60% of that project out of their own fundraising campaigns, and NV Energy covered the rest of the cost. And so we talked about that with different subdivisions within our service territory, and there was mixed opinions on that it should continue to be a priority, but that the community or ratepayers shouldn't shoulder, the burden of that cost, that we should seek alternative funding, things like grants or other opportunities. And so what the district has done is continued on a case-by-case basis. We've partnered with the town of Truckee on a couple of undergrounding projects that had mutual benefits and shared costs. We also have it in our district code. Any new development requires undergrounding of infrastructure. Very good examples, large examples of that are the Grays Crossing and Old Greenwood communities, the Cold Springs development over here off of the Truckee exit, and some of the future developments that you might see going on around Soaring Way, Jorger Drive. All those developments require undergrounding. Part of that feedback in the community circles, one of the kind of prevailing thoughts of wisdom there was that keep this undergrounding as an opportunity where it's economically feasible, but prioritize more feasible options or alternatives. And really what we arrived at with those discussions would continue to pursue increased vegetation management and alternatives to undergrounding. These included covered conductors, metal poles, line sensor technologies, the ones that Mr. Swanson is talking about this evening, as a package, an alternative to undergrounding. It's far less expensive. We look kind of back of the envelope estimates at $4.5 million a mile was putting that project for complete undergrounding of our systems, what's left overhead, in the $300 to $500 million range. And that would be a heavy financial burden for our community. So while we would still pursue things like undergrounding districts or shared cost, the district board's direction to staff and the community's input to staff was to seek out feasible alternatives. And so this fits into that larger package. Mike's talked about, and we'll have some more information here in a few minutes about, the metal pole and insulated conductor programs that are currently underway in the west end of Donner Lake, Northwoods, and Tahoe Donner during, prioritizing some evacuation corridors and such. And so this fits into that larger package. And I think he has a slide here in just a second to show that. I wanted to give some larger kind of global context of how this particular procurement fits into our larger strategies for system reliability and safety. And the safety component includes wildfire mitigation. Mike.
Thank you, Brian. And this is the next slide that Brian was talking about. I refer to this as the ARC. I think the board has seen this on several different presentations. Everything in green is things we're currently working on. our vegetation management. I feel we have a very robust vegetation management program with over $2 million spent to be spent this year. Well, also, the board approved our LiDAR program that we're currently looking at for vegetation to do further analysis for us. Our GO 165 inspections and patrols, this year we're exceeding those requirements, and we plan on doing so in the future as well. We have to know the condition of our grid, and by physically going out and looking at it is one way to do so. System hardening, as Brian mentioned, we have our Northwoods project, we have our west end of Donner Lake project. We're starting Northwoods with, we're anticipating starting Northwoods in the next couple days. Then we have the industry expert, that's Cloudfire, that we brought on board several months ago. We plan on bringing Cloudfire here to present to the board to share what they've been working on as far as weather and risk intelligence for us. We've been in non-reclose for the last several years where during wildfire season, we set our equipment up so it does not reclose. Should a fault occur, it opens up and locks out, and then we gotta go find the problem. Fast trip settings, Mr. Campbell came in here a couple meetings ago and talked about our advanced power safety settings, and you saw videos of how fast trip settings reduce the arc or limit the arc significantly. And then, of course, our preemptive power shutoff plan. The missing link today is line sensors, our visibility into our system by monitoring our grid. So as far as service life and warranty, there was a lot of discussion about that at the last board meeting. Grid scope devices are designed for a service life exceeding 10 years. This is validated through accelerated age testing done by Gridware. I mentioned at the last board meeting that I believed the warranty was 2 years, but I'd have to get back to the board. The warranty is actually a 5-year warranty. Mr. Crow and I had a conversation earlier today, and he would be very happy if our laptops had 5-year warranties. They have no systemic device failures, so they have had some isolated cases where a device has failed and has been replaced under warranty. Gridware is open to negotiation for longer-term warranties. However, staff does not recommend we do so. Business continuity and reliability. This was a question regarding what happens if Gridware goes away. If Gridware ceases to operate, devices would continue to sense and hazard identification would continue with no immediate disruption. The district retains full ownership of the data. Insights can be delivered via standard formats and integrated with other systems. Hardware and software built on open standards and enable transition to alternate providers if that's necessary. Gridware is backed by stable institutions, Sequoia Capital and JP Morgan, and has a diversified customer base, as we saw on that map earlier, which reduces disruption risk. Upgrades and pricing, it's all over-the-air upgrades. This is all just like your cell phone gets upgraded a couple times a year. It'd be that the same, and there's no additional cost to do so. And it's automatic. They do that. Pricing is not dependent on purchase quantity. There is no minimum purchase required. With that said, these devices, if we just installed one device, it does nothing for us. We have to install them behind basically at the circuit level so we can see the entire circuit. That's where the value is. They have no anticipated supply chain issues. They're holding devices for us at this time based on their bid and based on discussions with them. Following table provides details on the proposed and future purchases. The unit price is $1,925. That includes the unit and 10 years of service. For fiscal year 25, we're recommending 400 units, and that's, again, 15% of our grid. Total project cost, $770,000. Total units required to modernize our entire grid is right around 2,600 units. We have in our 26-27 CIP $1 million per year. That's pending board approval. and it's a 4-year plan, 550 units per year, $5 million, roughly a $5 million total project cost. So you might be asking, okay, where are we going to put these things? So we know we have to put it where we install our covered conductor. So the west end of Donner Lake, they're definitely going there. But we're also working closely with Cloudfire to identify where our highest risk areas are. Where is the fire going to spread and cause the most damage should our facilities cause that fire? Financial considerations, we have sufficient funds in our fiscal year 25 capital plan. It's part of our strategic plan, and it's to cover the $770,000 procurement without using any contingency funds. Grid scope line sensors project is included in our, again, in our 26-27 capital improvement plan, ensuring continuity and funding and integration into a long-term grid modernization strategy. And once again, our fault indicator and line sensor capital expenditures, the forecast for this year is roughly $1.38 million. This line sensor project for $770,000. We have purchased 28,500 in overhead fault indicators. We don't plan on doing any future. Let me rephrase that. If board approves this project, we don't plan on installing any future overhead fault indicators, as this device will do that for us. We do plan on spending $450,000 on underground fault indicators. Again, it's all budgeted items. We don't have underground fault indicators in our system today, which makes it difficult for us to identify the fault. We also have $130,000 in internal labor built into this. As far as our overall capital overview, we have a fiscal year 25 budget of $9.7 million. Our forecast in June was $9.3 million. This included the fault indicator and line sensor costs. We have a capital reserve as of June 30th of $13.2 million, and at the end of the year, we're forecasting $14.1 million. Sufficient funds are available within fiscal year 25 budget to cover this item with no effect on current capital plans or reserve balances. So other avoided costs. So we've talked about some of this before. We have regulatory compliance, California Wildfire Advisory Safety Board recommendations and their requirements. We have insurance premiums that could be at risk. We also have credit ratings. You heard Mike talk about, Mr. Salmon talk about the S&P credit ratings. So I had the opportunity to review that document that S&P sent over. It is one of the questions they have is, do you have cameras monitoring your system? Do you have sensors monitoring your system? So the recommendation, again tonight, is to authorize the general manager to execute a material purchase contract with Gridware for electric utility distribution system line sensors in the amount not to exceed $770,000 for this year.
Mike, thank you for that information. All of that was new for some of our directors here, and some of it was new to all of us, so thank you for continuing to flesh out this project. Do we have any public comments on this item? Seeing none, let's bring it back to the board and questions and comments that we might have.
I'll start. I asked for this to be pulled because I feel that expenditures of this magnitude need more context and review and shouldn't be on a consent calendar where we just rubber stamp it. I met with Mike during the week for about an hour and asked a lot of questions. A lot of what you see in the presentation was predicated from my questions, and at this point, I am comfortable with the presentation and where we go.
Thank you very much, Director Randall. Do we have other questions or comments from the board?
I just want to second on the clarity thank you for that, since I heard the presentation the first time, so that was, I'm okay with this too.
There was definitely more good information provided to us, so we appreciate that.
I appreciate the challenge.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to execute a material purchase contract with Gridware for electric utility distribution system line sensors in the amount not to exceed $770,000.
I'll second that.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Fantastic. And that brings us to item number 10 this evening, which is consideration of a construction services contract for pole and anchor hole digging for the electric utility system hardening. Oh, we're not. Phase 2, Act 2, for Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, President Finn and members of the board. Once again, I'll be presenting out on item number 10. So our system hardening pilot project on Northwoods Boulevard, I've talked about it on several department updates. This supports community safety, system reliability, and resilience. The scope of work is approximately 2 miles. It includes 78 pole holes, 35 anchor holes, which includes the anchor installation, and 113 holes total for the pole and anchor contract bid. The ancillary items included in the lump sum bid, these are rock holes, so we put in the bid that if it's a boulder greater than 3 foot, there's an additional price. Landscape restoration, if our whole location damages landscape, we'd restore that, and other excavation-related work as needed. Contracting hole excavation allows district crews to stay focused on the critical power line work. We have a highly skilled workforce that's there to work on energized and de-energized power lines. Digging holes is not necessarily beneath them, but it is something that we could utilize different labor to perform that work. Having a lump sum big contract provides cost certainty, budget predictability, and efficiency for our crews. Just a recap on the whole project. The project starts up off right by St. Croix Way on Northwoods Avenue. It goes all the way down to just a little past, I believe it's Christie Lane. Again, it's approximately 2 miles. This is where we're installing ductile iron poles, composite cross arms, covered conductor, 100% cover at the end of the day. So we do have time and equipment contracts currently to do some excavation work for us. We have that contract currently with RK Contractors. In 2024, the district spent approximately $300,000 under this contract. The estimated pole cost, we weren't tracking individual poles because there's other work associated with the civil work that's part of the contract, but we estimate it to be between $4,000 and $5,000 per hole. So we did receive 4 bids from EDP. They're out of Templeton. Their bid was for $749,000, almost $750,000. Tykert Line Services, Alberta, California, over $1.1 million. RK Contractors out of Verdi, $484,210, which is our recommendation tonight. And Rupert, which is out of Truckee, $534,272. Again, the lowest responsive bid was RK Contractors. It covers 113 holes plus the ancillary items as part of the lump sum scope. Doing the math, that ends up to be about $4,285 per hole. It's competitive compared to our T&E costs on the lower end. The advantage of the advantage of a lump sum contract, we have a defined scope and deliverables, predictability, and avoids variability as with a T&E contract. It's fully compliant with our procurement policies and public contract code, and it aligns with our fiscal year 2024-25 capital improvement plan and our operating budget, as well as our strategic plan. Fiscal impact. Capital expenditures for system hardening work, forecast is $2.5 million. 484 of that civil excavation, $2 million in internal labor and materials. There is some contingency built into this. We're estimating approximately $1 million a mile, but this is why we're doing the pilot project, to really determine if that's what the cost is going to be. As far as our overall capital budget, once again, $9.7 million was our budget, $9.3 million was our forecast back in June, and that includes the $2.5 million system hardening Northwoods project. Capital reserve, again, $13.2 million as of June, predicted to be $14.1 million at the end of December. Sufficient funds are available within the fiscal year 25 budget to cover this item with no effect on current capital plans or the reserve balance. The recommendation for tonight is to authorize the general manager to execute a construction service contract with RK Contractors in the amount of $484,210 for civil excavation services to support the electric utility system hardening project.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Swanson. Do we have any public comment on this item tonight? I don't see any. Therefore, we are going to bring it back to the board. I think, as we all know, digging holes in this community is harder than you might think. Anybody who has a yard. So, any questions or comments from the dais?
I asked for this to be pulled. Same concept as the last one, I think. When we are spending $500,000, we need to have a presentation on the reasoning for it, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments? Yeah?
Can you refresh my memory again, the length of this project? How many months, weeks?
So we are, if the weather holds up, we think we could be done by mid-December. I don't want to commit because I don't believe the weather is going to hold up. But we do have a plan. We have it built into the contract as well, that if weather delays the project, it'll continue on the fall as weather clears up.
For the next minutes, I'm really excited for this project and the pilot and the experimentation of it with positive results at the end for other communities. So it's great.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have a motion?
Oh, I had one
Oh.
quick question. Just the local bidding preference
time I don't
policy.
ask.
What, refresh my memory. It's foggy.
So in district code, in our procurement policies, we do have a local preference policy, but the local preference policy is capped at procurements $100,000 or less. And so it's for goods and services. A local bidder or someone submitting a proposal would get a 5% preference on their score or pricing, but that's limited to a $100,000 project.
Thank you.
Question. Thanks. I
was
didn't
like,
know
well,
that
he's-
either. I was foggy
They were,
as well.
Rupert was within, 10% or some of their price, so
Yeah, it was about
a little
$35,000
double that,
difference.
but then 5 times more than our limit. So-
It's good to have,
Yeah.
it's good to have metrics, right?
Right,
It's
right.
parameters.
Could have metrics.
All right, well, in which case, do we have a motion?
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None opposed. The motion passes, and that brings us to the third of our action items this evening. Item number 15, consideration of adopting Resolution 2025-26, approving the submission and attesting to the veracity of the 2024 Power Source Disclosure Report and Power Content Label. And for this, we have Mr. Carpenter presenting.
Board. Okay, so
presentation of the power source disclosure report and power content label. So what is this? Quick overview. This slide here is just to overview everything real fast. So the power source disclosure, that is the actual source of energy and where they came from. The power content label, sometimes people refer to as like a cereal box label, tells you what's in your power supply, again, kind of where it came from and what the sources are. This is all about what happened in 2024. This goes to the California Energy Commission for review, and then they do a bunch of processes back and forth before they give us a final report. So again, just to be clear, what this is all about is it's about the power content label and the power source disclosure, and we have to bring it to the board by law so they can approve and attest the veracity of the PSD and PCL. So it happens every year around now. Little background, this started back from Senate Bill 1305 in 1997. And again, the PSD that's the generator and the fuel source. The PCL is the percent of power from those different generators. And again, this goes in around June 1st of each year, but then through the review process and back and forth, we don't get a report back to them until about, I don't know, it was about 2 weeks ago or something like that, we got it. So came to the board as soon as we got it back. And then we have to show us to the board, and we have to share it with customers. Both the slides, left and right, are the same. I just kind of zoomed in a little bit. So just so you can see the power content label, that's it. 55% of our power in 2024 came from renewable resources. It's a mix of biomass. There's geothermal, but we don't have any in 2024. But then some hydroelectric, which is small hydro, solar is 9%, wind is 27%. So that's the renewables. The large hydroelectric is carbon-free, but not categorized as renewable. And so that's really anything over 30 megawatts. But we didn't have any of that in our portfolio of getting power to Truckee last year. Then nuclear, no nuclear, and the emerging technology is a new one that they put on. Other for us is VEO, which is a heat recovery unit. So that's just, they don't have a heat recovery in there, so it just categories under other. The 15% for natural gas that came from the Nebo plant, no coal. And then the unspecified power, which they had a little note on there this year for the first time saying primarily fossil fuels. 24% of our power came from that. That's often where you can say the market purchases or things you might have purchased within short and long-term markets, whatever it might be, but we don't know where they're from exactly. But again, they're probably fossil fuel. And just to be real clear, again, if you have a renewable resource in those first, it makes up 55%, and also compared to 45% for the rest of California, so we're a little ahead of them with these things, you have to receive the energy, but there's also a REC component, a renewable energy credit. If you don't retire the credit, the piece of paper, that REC, you can't call it renewable. So if it's all solar, for example, 24 hours a day, but you didn't retire the REC, that would be unspecified. So you got to match them up and retire them. Just a little history here. So I just kind of 2020 to 2024. So simply put, we're higher than we have been for many years. I'm going to go to the next slide because I did a little graph, it's a little bit easier to read. So this was basically our most renewable year ever. We've had years we were close to it before 2020, but the blue bar there of how much power we purchased was a lot lower. So similar resources, but more power. It's, I guess, more challenging, but you know, we did it this year. The orange line, 2024. The orange line, that's renewables. The green is kind of the carbon-free stuff, and the black is carbon emitting. So we kind of really settled and brought carbon emitting down in the past couple of years and increased our renewable, which nice thing is you've seen our rates and the power cost adjustment, we're actually giving money back. So we're coming in low cost and far greener. Probably a good thing. So where our power come from? So renewables, just to be specific for us, Horse Butte Wind, Trans-Jordan Biomass, Pleasant Valley Wind, Red Mesa Solar, Stampede Small Hydro. The others, the VEO, as I mentioned, the natural gas is Nebo, and then unspecified. And just to be clear, not every year it'll be like this. Some years we will bring in new things and different things to meet that power supply, but that's what it was in 2024. This is that one in the middle there. That's the 2023 label versus 2024 on the right. Want to point this out just so you can see. It's different this year than last year. They changed the formatting reporting, so it takes a while to get through all these things when they change that data, but it went through just fine. But one thing we want to call in here is that it does mention the greenhouse gas piece. If you look right here and also right here, this is something that was added in 2020. We started tracking greenhouse gas emissions. There's going to be a report due on this. It's in the queue in this part of the law, but it doesn't kick in until about 2031. We have to start reporting those things. So this is more of a tracking mechanism. I just want to call out in 2023, we were 5% better than the average California utilities, but in 2024, we were 7% worse. Generally speaking, it's because we don't take large hydro in 2024. It can always change in the future, but that's the case. For fiscal impact, there is no fiscal impact of approving this power content label. And so the recommendation is to adopt resolution 2025-26, approving the submission and testing to the veracity of the 2024 power source disclosure report and power content label.
Very good. Thank you, Jared. Do we have any public comment on this item tonight? I see none. That will bring it back to us to have questions and comments from the board. Does anybody have any questions or comments on our power source disclosure report and power content label? No, it's pretty clear. We've been getting a lot of this over the years. We're becoming familiar and more familiar, and the trends are good. We're not where we want to be, but we will be at some point. So thank you so much for that. Do we have a motion? Do we feel? Tony's going to do it. Tony hasn't been here for a while.
I'll move staff's recommendation as presented.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? I hear no opposed. The motion passes. Yay, we have authorized our power disclosure report. Good for us. Okay, great. And that brings us to item number 16, consideration of resolution 2025-27, authorizing the Fremont Solar and Battery Project transaction schedule with UAMPS. I actually do have a quick question regarding the power contact label. Where do batteries fall into that scheme? Are they something that just gets wrapped into solar or whatever other source we might be using to charge the battery with? Are they going to be broken out?
That's a really good question. So there was a category in there called emerging technologies. So it is possible that batteries could go in there eventually, but at the end of the day, all a battery is a device today. A battery is a storage device. So if they came from a solar array that's stored in a battery, you just shifted when that was. If it came from a nuclear plant or a gas plant or anything else, or geothermal went into a battery, you just shifted where the power came from. So a battery added to a geothermal would still just be geothermal, or solar just be solar. So, but also if it was gas, it'd be gas. So it sticks in those categories. There's no, where the battery gets from is tracked very carefully.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. And back to item 16. Sorry, I interrupted myself. So here we go. Item number 16.
Okay, so this is this is a new generation project we're bringing to the board to see what you guys think about it. So back in 2023, we were looking at through UAMPS, our partners there. We're looking at different generation sources. We're always looking at different generation sources. We always have a bunch in the queue, the hopper, or whatever you want to call it. The majority of them fall apart or die or not one or can't be developed. It is what it is, but you're always looking for more. So this one, starting back in 2023 until now, it's a solar project called Fremont Solar that with batteries added to a little bit later. It's a 99 megawatts alternating current, so megawatt AC, but megawatts, 99 megawatt solar photovoltaic facility, coupled with a 49.5 megawatt, which is, it can run for 4 hours, so that makes it 198 megawatt hour. That H gets very important. Battery system. It's located in Iron County, Utah, and combining this solar with storage. We'll show more slides in this, but it's nice to have this because Truckee, for example, doesn't use a ton of power during the middle of the day or more at night and even in the morning. So having anything that shifts to meet our extra resources, we love solar, but it doesn't help us when the sun sets. Add a battery, it does help us. This is where it's located. Diamond for us over here. So it's over there in Utah. So this project, so it's the current plan should come online by December 31st, 2027. If it's not online by June 2028, there's damages to be paid by the developer. So, but fully expect it to be online in December, or very, very soon afterwards. We have the option to buy into a 1 megawatt share of this project. I'll show you a little more on what that means and some pictures coming up. This is up to the board's discussion tonight, though. That's why we're here. And The general pricing, I'll touch more on this on the fiscal piece, but just want to throw it there right now real fast. So it's about $35.45 per megawatt hour. And just for simple math for folks out there in the world, and that's if our energy costs earlier today, but I was talking about was around 23 cents a kilowatt hour. 3.5 cents would be the energy from this project. And the battery, that's $13.50 per kW month. Remember, no H there, it changes things around a bit, but per kW month. We'll go forward because make sure I can explain this well. So what does the battery provide? So simply put, we have just a solar array. There's times in the day we have so much solar in California that the prices go very negative, very low in the markets and even negative. If they go negative, there can be curtailment. So let's say you're a solar array and let's say you need whatever, you need $50 per megawatt hour to operate. That's where you break even. If the market goes to $40, you need to decide if you want to stay online or not or turn off for a few hours. If the market goes to $100 per megawatt hour, well, then you want to make sure everything is running to make you more money for the generators. So these markets are happening all day, constantly, every few minutes, changing constantly. The cheapest price nowadays is during the daytime because of all the solar and batteries we've added in California. The evenings and mornings get very, very expensive and more volatile. So anything that sheds our evening and morning generation needs is a good thing, especially for trucking. So this helps with that. So back to the second bullet though, so if there's curtailment, that means the array, the generator, doesn't matter what it is, has turned off. Let's say it's renewable energy like a solar array and it's turned off. Well, now the challenge is you have a hard time complying with your RPS, your Renewable Portfolio Standards laws, how green we have to be by law, because it's not running all of a sudden. And then of course, if it's not running because the price went too low and the solar turned off, well, now you're buying from the markets. That's probably cheaper, but mostly from a gas resource, as I saw in the last presentation for our power content label. So pairing a battery with solar reduces these risks. Those two pictures right there, I just took one on the left is the first week of January, and the one to the right is the first week of July of 2024. Just kind of random ones to show you. That orange line is the cost of this particular project. This is generally speaking, but if you look at this and go, well, in January, they're going to want to run constantly because the market prices are almost always higher than the battery. So they're going to cost $34, but they're selling it at something more than that. In the first week of July, that's not the case as much. Now, if it's just a solar array, you're just working the markets. And you take losses here and there, we're trying to win overall. You had the battery, well, you might say, hey, I'm going to turn off, charge the battery, charge it, and then discharge the battery power when the markets go higher again in the day. Just to go real clear, and also make sure this is very clear, everyone, because this is something that has not always been the case in the power sector, and only in the past few years has this changed. The way a generator works, like I just said, but I'll say it again a little more simply. A generator is sitting somewhere and is selling power into the grid, just the overall grid, and at a certain market price. There's a cost to run the generator, and a cost it's going to get that's constantly changing. If it's a gas plant, it's very variable because you got to buy fuel, and fuel costs constantly change. Solar array, wind array, they're pretty consistent because there's no fuel cost, just sun and wind. So there's pros and cons to that. Gas can speed up and slow down. They're subject to wind and solar, but either way, they're selling into a grid. The graph below there basically shows the market prices across all of 2024. And the orange line, again, is this particular project. That's hypothetical. There are plenty of times when it would be losing money. But there's even more times where it would be making money, so to speak. That's how the markets work. And everything really is financial up until the last 5 minutes, where it becomes very, very physical. And that's when the realm of the engineering, design of these things becomes incredibly important. So hopefully that, and I probably should grab one right now if we want to do it online and do it, but I grabbed this yesterday around noon. The market price at Truckee was, I think it says $17, kind of hard for me to read from here. That's how much the power cost at the node price here in Truckee yesterday at about noon. I didn't check in the evening. It wouldn't surprise me if it was $200 once the sun set, because things come online. So again, for consideration for tonight, so we have an option to buy into 1 megawatt share of this project. There are RECs included, so it would be renewable both in reality and in pieces of paper. And just for a point of reference, 55, you just saw 55% of our energy in 2020, I wrote 2025. In 2024 came from renewable resources. The goal as a law is 60% by 2030. So we do have to keep doing a bit more, finding more renewable resources just to comply with law by 2030. And I would highly recommend you don't wait until 2029 to start buying them then. It'd get kind of challenging and expensive. The best, of course, helps with dispatchable to match that same solar load with our actual load. This agreement with UAMPS is done through a master firm supply agreement. So it's how we did the Red Mesa project too, and others in the past, but basically they call it a master firm supply agreement. Oh, and of course, the last bullet's important while we're here tonight. Our board, by board resolution, is required for us to move forward with our share and percentage of this project to complete the action with UAMPS so they can go ahead and get this project hopefully online by 2027. It's a good option for us because the cost is not high. It's a little more in the next fiscal slide in a moment. It adds green up our portfolio for regulatory reasons, and it's a good time frame too. We have some contracts coming offline. This one coming online is nice. Adding the best, of course, we talked about enough already, but it just kind of helps with flexibility. So one thing I want to call here is, so I have another one on this chart in the next slide here, but just real quick, so a lot of this we talked about already. Essentially, this purple right here is each of these bars are months in our portfolio. The white in between here is kind of where we're buying market prices, or we're just buying from the market. So sometimes we're pretty exposed. You see, adding these generation sources just fills in that gap. Of course, you want to have it at a price that isn't too expensive. That would make you high rate increases. So if you can find something that helps you regulatory-wise, fits well your portfolio, you should strongly consider adding it to your portfolio. This is that same chart, but I'm just stepping out of there. You saw it last time, but simply put, this is where we are today. I circled this because this was that volatility that we had financially back in December 2022 and January 2023. As you see, the exposure to the white in there, it's really just that blue right there, this bunch right here. That can cost a lot of money. It can be a lot. The market prices can go crazy. To be honest, those gas generators aren't cheap when they need to run, so expensive. So if this comes online out here, you can see it does help fill certain things in. And I didn't clean this up, it's fair to show it to you, but if you look over here, you see some of this lighter blue. These are other projects we're looking into and seeing how they fit into our portfolio. And you'll even see in some cases, get deep in the weeds here, but in some cases, we'd actually be oversupplied in certain months, which means we would take that excess and sell to the grid. Also, our batteries can be quite nice because you could say, store it in the battery, grid spikes high. Well, do you want to sell to the grid or do you want to use what you already have stored in the battery? You decide whatever's financially best. But either way, if it's solar putting it in, it's still renewable. Fiscal impact. So again, this project is at $35.45 per megawatt hour. Just as a point of reference, Red Mesa was $41 a couple of years ago that came online, so $41 for that one. That's part of our portfolio in that previous slide, those bars. It's 25-year term. Our power supply for 2028, because let's say it doesn't come online until 2028, the power supply right now is forecasted to be $85.20. So 35 looks good. I do want to always be cautious because again, that hourly component, we're talking about months here and years, but it's really done by the hour. Solar will only work during the day when the sun's shining, when the prices are lower, as I already mentioned, but the battery will get you 4 hours into the evenings or mornings. But it won't be running all night, obviously, even with the batteries. So price looks good. It is a good price. It does help keep our rates stable and low and green. But comparing directly to $85 for a gas generator that can turn on when needed and floor it and run as needed, it's not the same as that, but it does help. This would only be about $300,000 or so. It's really hard to say what the cost is because it depends how much the sun shines, how much it cranks out, but it'll be around $300,000 per year of our $15 million power supply budget. So it's not substantially huge. Now, one thing I want to call out in terms of cost, no negative impact. One thing I want to make sure we touch on again, just to make sure everyone's aware of this, is there's also a value for this for resource adequacy and resource efficiency. So what are those? So resource adequacy focuses on having sufficient power system capacity to meet the peak demand at a given time. Basically, however much power, if right now a Truckee needs, I don't know, I'm going to guess about 23 megawatts at this very moment. Do we have 23 megawatts of power into our grid? Let's say we only have 20 megawatts and we're buying the other 3 from the grid. you really need to have, as a utility, you have the responsibility of having enough power supply and a safety factor to ensure grid reliability. That's kind of how the game works. Resource efficiency evaluation is kind of the same thing, except looking at it an even a little more granular to ensure you have sufficient resources to match your load. So as you saw from the previous thing, there were a lot of open gaps. Remember, the hour gets very important here with this, but we're trying to fill those gaps in because the costs for these things are going up greatly for everyone, not just us, obviously. So, but it's a little hard for us to value the cost of RA and RSE until we know more about what we're going to be charged from it and how that's going to change, which is still under a lot of analysis and discussion at the federal and state levels. But I highly doubt it will remain very, very cheap as things go forward. So having sources like this help keep those costs under control down the road. The recommendation tonight, authorize general manager to adopt resolution 2025-27, authorizing TDPUD's involvement in the Fremont Solar and Battery Project transaction schedule and auxiliary agreements as needed with UAMPS.
Thank you, Jared. That's an exciting.
Before we go to public comment, there's one typo. The general manager would not authorize the adoption of the resolution. That the recommendation is for the board to adopt resolution. So I just want to make that one correction there.
Thank you. That's an important distinction there. Okay. Do we have any public comment on this item tonight? Once again, seeing no public here, bringing it to the board. Any questions or comments on this project?
I just want to say it's really exciting to see that we're filling that market purchase gap. So I just want to say that I'm actually really excited to see that purple, all filling in that market purchase, which has been pretty big for a while. So it's a big step and super exciting project because it's got the battery storage component to it and it fits well. So, and then so thank you for that. That really appreciate it. And then is UAMPS only offering 1 megawatt purchase or is there additional capacity generation offered, or are we just capped at the 1?
There's no cap. It's what we signed up for.
Okay.
There could be more available from it. There are more projects in the queue that are similar to this that we have that should be coming up down the road as we can bring them here. But it is fully subscribed. So if somebody wants to reduce their share, there would be an opportunity for us to buy more of their share.
One is our allotment for now, fully subscribed, and we'll just cross that bridge if more capacity pops up, becomes available. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Director Bender.
Well, this is great. I really just want to recognize how valuable our relationship with UAMPS is. Oftentimes I always said we were looking under every rock to find the next best available renewable resource for this community at an affordable price. And it seems like recently and past history is that UAMPS has been delivering on that time and time again. So I just want to reiterate how valuable our relationship is and our membership is with UAMPS and how engaged our staff is with them to be able to get in line and get these contracts signed and approved and in front of the board and to benefit our customers in multiple ways. So thanks for that. And
Thank you, Tony.
My question is coming as a new director. Does the Truckee Donner PUD have a good history of recognizing opportunity and jumping on it?
Well, I guess history, I'd have to give me a number of years of a time frame history. But I mean, I'd say yes. If you go back 10, 15 years ago, the number of generation sources we had were very, very few. And those complicated charts, they were much simpler back then. You didn't have to worry so much about, almost don't worry about annually for a while there. Monthly became a little bit later, and now we're definitely in the hourly. It'd be hard to read if I put up here. But yeah, I think we've always been good at finding new projects and doing our best to win them. It is very challenging nowadays to develop a project. It's just as challenging to win one. So since I'll give you an example. Years ago, when I was doing power supply, it was a function of you go buy some power, I'm going to fill the portfolio in, go out and do a bid, come back and get some responses and choose which one makes sense for our portfolio. Today, do the exact same thing and say, I need this much power in the next 3 months or the next year, or this much per high load and the load hours, because you're filling in every hours of the day. It's not just a blank thing you're doing. Nowadays, they'll come back and if they even respond, we'll say, okay, we'll give it to you this month, but not this one and this one. They'll only respond in certain months. So now you have to go find it again or rely on the markets or change constantly. So that's a significant change. And I'd say in the past 3 to 5 years, that's become the norm. So you have to constantly shop, constantly hunt. And that wasn't the case five years ago plus, I'd say.
And you have to constantly jump on opportunity and recognize it when it's there, which is our job, right?
Oh, yeah.
To be able to do that and to see an opportunity, go, we want to be a part of that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, to take a solar array, and let's say your goal is to be, I use 50% renewable. Well, the solar array changes a lot throughout the year when it's generating power. Tons in the summer, not very good in the winter. So in the winter, sometimes summer, it's going to have to overproduce. In the wintertime, it'll underproduce and balance out in the year. But if it's overproducing, sometimes you don't want to keep the energy because it's too much energy for you to meet your load, so you want to sell it. And then so you're always looking for sources that fit your portfolio well, and also both physically and financially. So you have to constantly track that all the time and always have a wide variety of things. And when it comes down to it, then you can choose which ones you want and don't want here and there. But you better always be shopping.
And my last question is how excited are you about this opportunity?
Oh, this is good. Where I'm excited about this one, what I like about this is batteries have been amazingly good for California, in my opinion. Strictly my opinion. I think they've done a great job. It really helped a lot of things in the past 2 years. The thing that's interesting is, I'll be very curious to learn from this one, is how is because we don't own it. We're not the operator of this thing. It's someone else does that. So how are they going to run it? Well, I'm going to, again, just my opinion, I'm going to bet anything they're operated, whatever makes them the most money. It is what it is. So whenever the market's the best, they're going to optimize and run it that way. That won't match well with Truckee. It's not far off, but it won't match what we do. If we have systems like this located in Truckee, well, then we would operate to match best for us. We're not looking outside, helping everyone else in the grid. It's how do we help our customers, our grid, to be optimized, also for good cost. But this one will be nice to see, and kind of, Jeff, your Bender, sorry, to your point, it's nice to see one come online so we can start to collect data. We don't have any batteries in our portfolio now, so we don't have anything to say, oh, well, here's how it's working, run it during 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. We don't have any of that. Now we will. And now you start to play with that a little bit and see what it means for us. And if it does terribly, well, then we didn't overcommit, and we look for something a little bit different or look for the next battery technology or type.
And if I remember, this is my last question. On one of the slides, it's a 25-year commitment once we commit.
Yep.
Okay. That's it.
I'd like to
Also, it's like no escalator either. So
add one little additional comment. It kind of complements what Jared just said in combination between Vice President Laliotis and Director Morell's questions in the context of the history of our relationship with UAMPS. And so the question about have we have a long history and a track record of pursuing things, we absolutely do. And if we look back several decades ago, this utility, this community was far more exposed to single markets and fossil fuel based energy generation. And so our predecessors, Mr. Hollabaugh and Joe Horvath, their relationship with UAMPS really started to drive that group and its membership to start pursuing some of these renewable energy sources in their portfolio because they're not subject to some of the same regulatory requirements and environmental requirements that California members are. And so we've done a great job historically of securing long-term energy contracts for stability. And now, as Jared's pointed out, the markets have evolved dramatically over the last 5 years where you're not seeing some of the long-term contracts. You're seeing a lot of competition for shorter term or smaller contracts to build a more diverse portfolio. And so the dynamics of energy procurement have changed dramatically over the last 10 years, and the PUD is adapting to that. And our partnership with UAMPS, who are also restructuring and adapting, kind of demonstrates that we're moving with the changing environment out there.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Steve.
I have one very small recommended change to the resolution. This is in section 2, other actions. This is on the second page of the resolution. Very first line, the word chairman. I recommend that we delete that and replace it with president. We don't formally have a chairman of our board, we have a president.
Thank you. Noted. Okay, you guys got it. Great. I just wanted to add my few comments is that I am very happy to see battery. I feel like that's going to be a necessary part of our future, and I don't think I would want to sign up for solar at this point without battery. It seems, I don't want to say silly, but it's in the past. We're going into the future. Diversity, again, I think that's going to be a vital component pretty much to anybody's portfolio now, and finding these projects that just are a little bit different, tweak it, like you said, to meet our hourly needs here in Truckee. It's going to require a diverse portfolio of resources that I'm sure our IRP defines it pretty clearly for us, to keep that in mind. There's something I read this morning is that Exxon, this is reading the tea leaves, they are reinvesting their energies into lithium-ion batteries. They were the actually inventor of the first lithium-ion batteries in the 70s, and they let that technology lie fallow for a number of decades, and now they are. So if we're wondering what's happening to fossil fuels, I think that's pretty clear when the largest producer of oil in the country is now looking into battery to revitalize that segment of their business plan. And was there something else that I had? Nope, that's it. Just thank you very much for that presentation. An exciting project I'm happy to be involved in. Anything else? No, we're good. All right, do we have a motion here?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Remembering what Steve said.
Yes. I'll move to adopt Resolution 2025-27 as amended by District Council, authorizing TDPUD's involvement in the Fremont Solar and Battery Project transaction schedule and auxiliary agreements as needed with UAMPS.
Great, thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Awesome. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Oh, thank you. Last little aye. None opposed. The motion passes. I think we are good. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
That is going to sort of end our open session portion of the evening. We are going to be moving into closed session for item number 17 as posted on the agenda. Okay, great. We're not really adjourned, we're just moving. We can take a minute, stretch your feet, use the restroom.